Welcome to another episode of From Forensics. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting case that I hope I can give some insight to. I hope I can be helpful in some way. So this is the story of Linda and Paul Curry. Linda at the time of this case was 45, Paul was 32. They met in 1989. They both worked at a nuclear power plant. They worked at Southern California Edison inside the San Onofre nuclear power plant. They were described by their coworkers as smart and driven. They were said to be very in love. They used pet names for each other, etc. She had bought a really nice house on her own in San Clemente, California. He had won thousands on Jeopardy in the 80s. They were honestly the stereotypical older couple. He had been married twice before, but it's unclear if she was actually told the truth about that. They married each other on September 12th of 1992 after dating for 3 years. But unfortunately, a little over a year after their marriage, Linda would be dead. He was potentially hiding 2 wives and 3 children from her. Everything on the outside seemed like they had a good marriage, but she did confess later that they didn't have sex until a while after they were married, and that she didn't really like him that much, but it was more about stability. Not that long into her marriage, Linda began to become mysteriously ill. She ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks, and doctors couldn't determine what was wrong with her. She had unusual bouts of stomach pains, cramping, and diarrhea and throwing up. Just strange gastrointestinal issues. After recuperating 6 months later, Linda found herself in the hospital again with similar problems. Almost exactly 1 year after her first hospital stay, Linda would be dead. Paul Curry was the picture of the perfect husband in dealing with his sick wife. He would take her to doctor's appointments, care for her when she was sick, give her food, and help her through everything that she needed help with. He was really a picture-perfect husband, and she never questioned his devotion to her. Again, the doctor visits never found anything conclusively wrong with her. They looked and did so many tests and just were never able to pin down what might be wrong with her. On June 9th, 1994, a 911 call was placed around midnight by Paul Curry, who said his wife wasn't breathing and needed help. Paramedics arrived but were unable to revive her. They took her to the hospital and she was pronounced dead. 1 year after her first hospital stay and 21 months into her marriage, Linda, a once healthy woman, was now dead. Now, I was able to find her autopsy report. I did read through it, and the most interesting fact that the autopsy revealed is that Linda had fatal levels of nicotine in her system, which is very strange because she was not known to be a smoker. She also had toxic levels of the sleep aid Ambien in her system, and a needle puncture was found behind her right ear. These were the biggest abnormalities found within her autopsy. Now, nicotine can poison humans through skin absorption, ingestion, inhalation, or eye contact. Symptoms include vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, stomach pains, virtually the same symptoms that Linda had been complaining about for over a year. If it's severe, headache, breathing difficulties, and convulsions can result. Cardiac irregularity and coma can also happen. Death happens when the respiratory muscles shut down. The lethal dose estimates are between 40 and 60 milligrams of nicotine. The nicotine level in cigarettes ranges from 6 to 24 milligrams. Once it's dissipated through the air, you're only getting about 1 milligram per cigarette. And among the organs, the brain had the highest concentration of nicotine when it came to Linda. At low concentrations, nicotine acts as a stimulant. However, it's also a powerful neurotoxin that at high doses is lethal. and it destroys nerve tissue. Because of its toxicity, it used to be used as an insecticide, and it was very popular. The lungs were edematous and congested, meaning they were filled with fluid, and the brain was swollen. The cause of death was intravenous nicotine poisoning. No other drugs besides nicotine and Ambien were in her system. The moment nicotine enters the body, it's metabolized into codeine, which reaches a concentration that is 2 to 4 times higher than nicotine in an hour. In Linda's case, the concentration was 95.2 nanograms per milliliter of codeine. Linda had nearly 100 times the concentration of nicotine in her system that would be found in a smoker. Linda's death was ruled a homicide and kind of just was ignored for several years. During police investigations, Leslie, the former wife of Paul Curry, was questioned. Leslie said that during the final year of their marriage, she began to fall very ill and doctors could not diagnose what was wrong with her in a similar way that Linda had experienced. And Paul Curry had suggested that they both get life insurance policies. Leslie also said that her health problems suspiciously disappeared when she stopped being around Paul. But still, the police weren't able to build a strong case around Curry. There was nothing to connect Paul Curry to the nicotine, to the sleeping pills, to a syringe, to anything surrounding Linda's death. It would be 16 years before murder charges were brought up against Paul Curry. Another 4 years until he was put to trial for it. He did get remarried, so do you feel that this was a miscarriage of the justice system? He could have definitely went on to kill another wife, or potentially more, before this was solved. Put in the comments what you think about this situation. This is one that really bothers me because I feel like they really just knew that it was him, but potentially didn't look hard enough for evidence or didn't have the funding to look deeper for evidence. I'm not sure. Put in the comments what you think about this case. So Linda was hospitalized twice in 1993 for her gastrointestinal problems, and both times her IV was found to be tampered with. I don't you know what, whatever, it's fine. That's totally not evidence, right? And they have found to have been tampered with right after Curry's visits. On the first occasion, a nurse noticed that the bag had been punctured and lidocaine had been introduced into the bag through a syringe. Lidocaine is a local anesthetic and a depressant, and Linda had not been prescribed with it. On a second occasion at a different hospital, a similar situation occurred. The IV bag was tampered with right before Paul Curry left. The alarm on Linda's IV went off as Paul Curry left the room. The hospital staff even put up a sign on her door prohibiting Paul Curry to enter without the accompaniment of a nurse. Leslie Curry ended up being a key witness at Paul Curry's trials. She testified in court about her frequent sickness during the marriage and how it all of a sudden got better when they were divorced. But potentially the most impactful statements were actually made by Linda herself, posthumously. There are recordings from one of her visits in the hospital where detectives asked her if anyone would potentially want to hurt her, and she mentioned Paul Curry. This is when she talked about how their marriage was not going good, how they were not having sex, and how she felt that he was not the type of husband that she expected him to be. Essentially, that she thought that he was capable of hurting her in some way. After a day of deliberations, Paul was found guilty of first-degree murder with special circumstances for poisoning and murder for financial gain. He was also convicted of insurance fraud. Paul Curry just stared ahead while the verdict was read, coldly. Prosecutors argued that Curry, now 57, poisoned his wife in order to collect the $500,000 insurance policy on which he took and started a new life with his new wife. They determined that he had sedated Linda with an injection of Ambien before injecting her with the fatal dose of nicotine, which prosecutors to this day are unsure how he distilled, but it is possible. This is one of the more interesting cases that I've looked at, one of the more well-covered cases, potentially not so much by YouTube true crime channels, but definitely it's been covered by sort of crime documentaries. There's some great documentaries. Be sure and check out my links below. I've linked some very informative documentaries about this case. Thank you guys for watching. Please put in the comments what you think about this case. Any comments, thoughts that you had. Why do you think that it took so long to bring Paul Curry to justice? Why do you think that he went with this method to kill his wife? Do you think that his new wife that he was living with when he was convicted, do you think that she was going to get sick? Do you think he would have killed her eventually? What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stick around for the next videos. Thanks, guys. The cause of death was intravenous cotinine, and just about the, yeah.